Stephen Miles, executive director of Win Without War, tweeted this, quote, "Since day one of the Trump administration, it has been clear that this is where we were heading. A completely reckless foreign policy in which decisions are based on personal vengeance and zero regard for consequences. A team of advisors obsessed with going to war with Iran." End of quote.
Yeah.
Senator Chris Murphy, Democrat, Connecticut, said in response to the New York Times report that the place we have arrived at tonight on Iran is Donald Trump's choice. He additionally tweeted this, quote, "He chose escalation over diplomacy without any idea how to get out of the downward spiral he set in motion." End of quote. Trump's reported approval of military strikes against Iran came after hours of growing tensions, with the president telling reporters that they would soon find out whether his administration plans to attack Iran following the downing of a U.S. surveillance aircraft. Iran said the drone violated its airspace and accused U.S. officials of ignoring repeated radio warnings. After American military officials claimed the drone was in international airspace when Iran shot it down, Iranian Foreign Minister Javad Zarif tweeted that the U.S. is lying.
Yep.
With the U.S. once more on the precipice of an unauthorized war, the nation's John Nichols asked, "Where's the Congress?" Quote, "Decisions about war and peace should not be left to the whims of a president who is ill-prepared, ill-informed, and ill-advised." End of quote. In a series of tweets late Thursday, Representative Ilhan Omar, Democrat, Minnesota, who has been an outspoken opponent of military action in Iran, urged Americans to pressure their representatives to stop a potentially catastrophic war. Here's what she wrote on Twitter, quote, "And I urge the American people to make your voice heard. Organize. Call your member of Congress. Let all our leaders know that a war with Iran would be a catastrophe."
You have got to, folks. You have a pack of mad war hounds, rabid, crazy war hounds that surround Trump. Trump is no rock of stability, that's for sure. But Bolton and Pompeo, they're crazier than Trump.
Yeah.
When it comes to the lust for war, they're from hell. They're hounds from hell.
Exactly.
You can take that as a quote from this radio show. They have in their madness the possibility of millions of people being killed. What was the total tally with the last lie of MNDs? 1 million Iraqis killed or displaced from their homes. That's just in Iraq. Yeah. That was just in Iraq. That's not our, 13,000 soldiers? I don't know what it was. And that was a total and juicy lie, and we're headed for a bigger one now with bigger implications. Do you realize Iran has 85 million people in the country? Does anybody know or care to know how many soldiers they have ready to go or the degree of sophistication of their weapons? It far surpasses. I saw a quote that they have an army 3 times as large as Iraq had. This is no walk in and flex your muscles and win the war like George Bush pulled off. They would fight you to the end. And they got big brothers behind them that will back them up. Do we have anybody with any sanity? Do you realize what chips lay on the table?
The Iraq War killed 4,496 U.S. troops, 178 U.K. troops, and then 139 other members of the coalition that we
That's
gathered.
just, if it means anything, that's just our personnel. That's not our treasure. That's not the amount of people who have suffered in this country economically, and who knows how many people, because we have no health coverage, because we spend our treasure on wars, died in a result. You want to add those up? I heard Hartman say it's in the hundreds of thousands, thanks to the war cabinet that Bush had. And if you want to go a little farther on your computer there, look at how many how many lives were lost in Iraq. Do you remember sitting watching? It was like a 4th of July display, shock and all.
Yeah.
And we were told unequivocally, these are highly sophisticated weapons. They're targeted. They're pinpointed. Just military targets. Mm-hmm. A week later, you saw children with limbs blown off and burn up like burgers left too long on the grill. That's some of your pinpoint attacking. This is atrocious. You can't call yourself a decent person and not worry immensely about what we're on the eve of right here, right now.
Exactly. Going to continue. Ilhan Omar went on to address Trump directly. She wrote this, quote, "As a survivor of war, I want to tell you, going to war does not make you strong. It makes you weak. Sending teenagers to die or returning with lifelong wounds, seen and unseen, does not make you a bigger person. It makes you smaller. I have seen firsthand the effects of war. Even in the best of cases, it never has the outcome you expect. War is death, displacement, and terror. War is hell." End of quote. By the way, since she has urged you to call your member of Congress, let's give you the phone number to the Capitol switchboard. That's area code 202-224-3121. Yeah,
folks,
call your congressman, 202-224-3121.
Who greases the skids for us to go into these wars? I would think very few Americans would think it's the media, but it's exactly the media. Do you remember the writer for the New York Times that backed the invasion of Iraq? Can't think of her name. Just thought of it now. I should have had that. I don't need to think of that name right now. I want to read a few words from Common Dreams. How mainstream U.S. media is failing us on Trump and Bolton's march to war with Iran. The media is failing us by quoting and promoting those pushing for regime change and or war, presenting them as, at best, neutral experts. The Trump administration and its allies are slow walking the United States into war with Iran. And with only a few notable exceptions, mainstream U.S. media is helping them. Much of the assistance has been overt. Like during the run-up to the Iraq war, outlets like CNN, NBC, and the New York Times have in recent weeks simply parroted, without any scrutiny, claims from Bolton and other administrative officials of a dire Iranian threat based on intelligence, which nobody has seen. These claims would compel officials within the U.S. intelligence community to tell reporters that the intelligence in question shows nothing new or that it's being blown out of proportion. We have not had that counterbalance. Our media, and I have an article, folks, if you want to see it, it's entitled 7 Reasons Why America's Corporate Media is Pro-War. Global research. It will blow your socks off. Probably not a good pun.
Yeah.
The media, folks, on and on it goes. And shockingly enough, Darren, if you have a story about how the media is complicit, plug it in there, because I want to go to a response of a person, an establishment Democrat. I'm on Friends on a page with a woman that said, I posted this and said we're going to be mentioned on the show, and she responds back, "What media? I haven't seen the media promoting any war with Iran."
But you haven't seen the media fight back against the narrative that the Pentagon is laying out. They're not fighting back against what Trump is laying out. There is no investigation, not from the Fourth Estate. They're just going right along, taking what the Pentagon says as gospel.
Yeah.
There's the difference, folks. Carlin, do I need to play it again? We like war. We're a warlike people.
You might as well. I'm serious.
Yeah.
Add to the flavor.
Yeah, exactly. And I tell you what, since I want to move on here because we've got other things that we got to get to. Speaking of PTSD, this is a story. This is Robert Fetter. He is a journalist that covers the media in Chicago, and he has his own website here. He wrote this article. This is from June 18th. After more than 20 years as a reporter for WGN Channel 9, Marcella Raymond says she's suffering from post-traumatic stress disorder because of her job. In an introduction to her new Facebook blog, which she titled, "I'm a Chicago journalist with PTSD," she wrote this, quote, "Sharing my story is scary, but I'm hoping we can address the stigma of PTSD, show the warning signs, and get real." End of quote. It's the price she says she's paying for decades of knocking on people's doors and shoving microphones in their faces at the worst times of their lives. On her way to covering the latest murder in West Englewood, here's what she recalls. Quote, "I hate these stories. I'm driving to the scene in the live truck with my photographers. I write this, trying not to cry, thinking if I should pop a Valium to get me through the day." End of quote. Bosses of the Tribune broadcasting station expressed support for Raymond. Gary Whiteman, Senior Vice President of Corporate Relations for Tribune Media, said, quote, Marcella is a valued member of the WGN News team and brings a great deal of compassion and context to the stories she covers. We will continue to work with Marcella to address her needs and ensure that she has the opportunity to do her best work." End of quote. The 53-year-old Raymond grew up in Downers Grove, Illinois, and graduated from Montini High School in Lombard and Columbia College in Chicago. She joined WGN as a general assignment reporter and fill-in news anchor in 1998. Prior to coming to work for WGN, she worked at stations in Dayton, Ohio, and Rockford, Illinois. The last time Raymond made headlines was in 2016 when she posted a letter on Facebook that she'd received from a viewer criticizing her appearance. The unsigned letter said, quote, "Please allow me to point out with great respect that you have gained too much weight." End of quote. Raymond replied, quote, "I'm 50 years old and I'm not going to look like I did when I was 23, and I can't compete with those girls, and it's not feasible. I can't do it. I would spend my entire life doing that, and I have other, better, more important things to do." End of quote. By the way, she received an outpouring of support from viewers on this body shaming. So she's now writing a blog talking about the PTSD that she's suffering, just doing her job, covering the news. Did we ever think we'd get to that point where reporters would have to seek therapy and seek help just for doing their job? I mean, it's ridiculous. Jack, it saddens me, and it just, the world's going, I might say what my mom always says, the world's going to hell in a handbasket.
Yeah, we said last week, it's not going here to a fascist state. It's there. Mm-hmm. Yeah, until people catch up to the reality of what we're sitting in, nothing's going to be done. Our nation's is suffering from PTSD. The amount of suicides, the amount of depressions, and et cetera, et cetera. We live in an atmosphere of fear, of intimidation. We have a media entertainer as president whose real talent is being able to hold the attention of the public because they never know what crazy thing he's going to say or do next. Mm-hmm. The suspense he brings about in the minds of Americans isn't based on diplomacy, isn't based on history. It's based on a man who shoots from the hip, and you're going to tune in to find out what the blank he's going to pull next. We're sleeping on the edge right now of a war in the United States. It's a sunny day. The bees are buzzing. Chico's asleep in the sun through the window. Mm-hmm. But the 18 and 19-year-olds, of which I have friends and grandsons in that age, may be facing another. Who knows if it could be the final one. It has dominoes lined up that has those implications. So I don't blame the journalist. I, at 7 years of age, have you know what a trip hammer is? A trip hammer is my grandmother used to say, my heart's going like a trip hammer. So the other day I heard about I think it was Trump that said the immigrant children don't need toothbrushes. I'm driving along down the road, and I look at the woman next to me, Sharon, and I said, Sharon, and I hadn't thought of this phrase in years. My heart, it's going like a trip hammer. Why? What's the matter? She thought I was having a heart attack. I said, did you just hear the news? We're talking about thousands of kids taken away from their parents, and Trump wants to save what? A few bucks while he's spending millions of dollars at his golf outings to keep toothbrushes from them? I said, my heart is going like a trip hammer. She said, what's a trip hammer? A trip hammer is a harvesting device. It would go boom, 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 and the farmers could hear it. My grandmother down in southern Michigan was raised on a farm, and they could tell there's a trip hammer going on. My heart was going like a trip hammer, folks. United States' heart is going like a trip hammer. We don't know what's going to befall us tomorrow morning.
Yeah, for those of you that don't know what a trip hammer is, this is from Wikipedia. A trip hammer, also known as a tilt hammer or a helve hammer, is a massive powered hammer used in agriculture to facilitate the labor of pounding, decorticating, and polishing of grain. Mining, where ore from deep veins was crushed into small pieces through a stamp mill, was more usual for this. Right. Finery forges for drawing out blooms made from wrought iron into more workable bar iron, and fabricating various articles of wrought iron, latent, and early form of brass, steel, and other metals.
Let's put a gigantic blood testing wrap around the arm of Uncle Sam right now.
you